What's up, everybody? I'm back on the Total Human Optimization podcast, and we're here with Camille Macres, who has an awesome cooking show, Paleo-Kitchen.tv. Camille's Paleo Kitchen wrote the book with one of the best names I've ever heard before, Paleo-Gasms, which just makes you think of like the meatiest, fattiest short rib ever, and just smearing it on
dripping
my face.
down your face.
Oh, is that marrow on my neck? Sorry.
Okay,
Don't be jealous.
Can somebody come and slurp that up for me, please? Oh, sorry.
Yes, I like that you're going with the name. Like you're really owning it. You're not backing down from Paleo-Gasm.
I invented this, not you.
I know. That's what I'm saying. But I didn't know if you threw it out there like, ha. But you're into it. I like it.
It actually it took me a little bit to actually get really behind it. A friend of mine was over for dinner one night, and it was when I was testing the recipes for Paleo-Gasm, and I made the most ridiculous pudding in the cookbook. It's this dark chocolate pudding that has a...
No, take it slow when you go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can we get a little bit of mute music? So I'm like,
we'll put that in later.
Yeah. But it's just this really rich and velvety chocolate pudding that has like 15 egg yolks and really nice...
15 egg yolks.
Yeah.
Decadent.
Yeah, sorry. I'm supposed to be
going We're going
low.
sexy.
I'm supposed to be going low and slow. But... If we did low and slow the whole episode, we could be here for 3 hours talking about food, seriously. But he was eating it. Oh, and it has this coconut chai cream on top that is so good. Yeah, we actually take bags of tea and put it into the coconut, and it steeps through for like 12 hours. It's just really good. And so he's taking a bite of this, and he's having like this full body convulsion over this pudding.
And we're not just talking about the happy food dance.
No, he was just like, I think he grabbed the side of his chair and was like, oh my God, I think I just had a Paleo-Gasm. And we all looked at him like, what was that? and it stuck. But then I actually, this whole book was a labor of love. I did all the photography. Mm-hmm. I actually did all of the design. I designed the whole cookbook cover, and I had everything ready to go. And then I was sitting. The last thing was the title that I had to put on there, and I was like, oh man, Paleo-Gasm was like right there. But I was actually like, I'm a good Christian girl, and and a lot of people wanted me to name the TV show Paleo-Gasm, and I wasn't willing to go there because I was just imagining moms with their little kids like sitting around scrolling through their
Mom, what's a Paleo-Gasm?
What does that mean? And then they have to have the birds and the bees conversation when all they wanted to do was like find a meal for dinner. So even though a lot of people wanted me to call it Paleo-Gasm, it is Camille's Paleo Kitchen.
All right.
But
we know that deep down the Paleo-Gasm is there.
It's always there.
Awesome. So one of your messages is to just inspire people to get in the kitchen and just start doing it, no matter if you know how to cook or don't know how to cook.
Yeah.
So, tell us about that, because all of us could use a little kick in the ass to actually get in there and
have
some fun.
Yeah. So it all really started for me so I found out I've always loved food. I've always loved to cook. I've been cooking forever. But when I was 22 or 23, I found out that I was intolerant to gluten and dairy and soy and like all of the things. Soy wasn't that important, but gluten and dairy, when you are a food lover, that makes up pretty much everything. And so when I found out that if I was going to be healthy, I had to take these things out of my diet, I had like an early life crisis. And you can laugh about it, but I really actually did for someone whose whole life is food.
Take away someone's bread, pasta, and cheese.
Yeah, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
And so I became a voracious learner about all of this stuff. And that's when I decided to quit my job and start my personal chef business. And so I was teaching myself how to prepare healthy things that didn't have those ingredients. And I knew that it was still challenging for me with all of my cooking background. This has got to be really, really rough for other people. Yeah. So that was when I started to recalibrate myself, because I really wanted people to be empowered if they were in the situation that I was in. So, of course, it's been over a decade since then, and I remember I'll share the brief part of the story, because this was a major point of change for me. Have you ever seen Jamie Oliver's show, Food Revolution?
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't know do you remember the episode? It was in the second season. He was in LA, and he was trying to make all of these reforms in the public school system, and he was just having a terrible time. So he did an episode where he went to meet with his dad and his two boys. I think that they had recently lost their mom, and they were just eating awful. It was so upsetting. And this is so great about having the budget for this. The producers brought in an entire year's supply of fast food, like 700 fast food meals. And imagine like having 700 meals dumped over the studio.
Whoa!
It was so disgusting. The visual of it. I mean, there's chicken nuggets on the armoire and like greasy pizza on the fireplace, and the dad is already just he already knows, but now he really knows. But he says, Jamie, I know that we need to make a change. I can't keep feeding my boys this food, but I have no idea what to do. And so Jamie said, in the same amount of time as you go out for your nightly fast food run, we are going to make, or in less time with less money, the boys, I'm not even going to cook. I'm going to stand alongside and tell them what to do. We are going to make a delicious meal from scratch.
Yep.
And so that's what they did. And they used things that I use a lot in the kitchen and teach people. I used a food processor, which allows you to cook your meals, or like to cut up vegetables really fast.
Yep.
I know all the cool cooking skill things, but I only really use food processors to cut things up, because you could spend 2 hours cutting up fresh vegetables, or you could spend 30 seconds, you choose.
Yeah.
So they did that, and they just made like a really yummy, simple meal. And so the dad gets home, and they're outside playing football, and he comes in with his greasy sacks of food and shows him the receipt, and then the boys take him over, and they sit down at their kitchen table, which is probably the first time they'd ever sat down at their kitchen table. And the boys are just, they're so happy because they've just made this thing. And the dad's crying, and I'm bawling. I'm sure that I was impacted by this more than anybody else who ever saw it, because I knew in that moment that was it. Like, that was the message that I needed to champion. That this, like, the collective idea for most people, most Americans who, both parents work, they maybe are on limited budgets. They don't have a whole lot, like, we're really pretty educated about nutrition. They have very, very, very basic, learning about nutrition. We need to find a way to meet them where they're at. But the first thing is to get to that mindset that I don't have the money, I don't have the skills, and I don't have the time. And what he did in that show was just such a beautiful visual. And I knew then, even though it took me several more years to get to the point where I am now, where I actually have my own TV show and am able to continue to champion that message, I knew then that was my message.
You set your intent there.
I did, yeah. So that's really, paleo is cool. I think that, some people get really way too dogmatic about it.
Sure.
I'm not into that. I guess I was sort of at the beginning. And I think that actually could be a necessary thing for people in the beginning, to be like really
Have
rigid.
A little more structure.
But I'm less structured about that now. I think it is, but I do love paleo. I think it works really well for a lot of people, especially if you have digestive stuff or autoimmune and inflammation, like inflammation most people have. But for me, it's really about helping people to overcome those mindsets, and then give them the really practical tools they need with simple recipes and the inspiration and the guidance, and really like cheerleading to just get in the kitchen and do it. So that's really what the show's about. That's what I'm about. And that's
There's
it.
something like inherently so satisfying about, even if you make a dish for yourself, it comes together, and it's like you make something that's unexpectedly good, and you're like, damn, that's really good.
Yeah.
Like it's part of this creative process that I think all of us really like, whether it's art or music or whatever. Cooking is another way to really practically do that and then fully enjoy your craft.
Yeah, and I think what's tough is a lot of people don't get to that point. Maybe they try a couple meals. They're maybe doing it with kids screaming in the background, or timelines. You got to get people fed, and they don't have what you just spoke of is so much like cooking for me is my bliss. I can have a crazy day and get in the kitchen and just be totally at peace and creating new things. And I really want people to get to that point where they can experience the fruits of their labor, like that they like it. Because as soon as you start making things that you like the way that they taste, most people will want to keep going and building on that.
Yeah.
But most people, not most, a lot of people just don't get to that point.
Right.
I mean, just give up.
Yeah. It's pretty quick actually too, though,
Yeah.
because I've been with people who've had, no experience in the kitchen. I mean, it just starts like you say, and it's can't even scramble an egg really. And it's like, but as soon as you kind of get these real just basic concepts
things.
of, heating everything at high heat doesn't mean that it cooks faster and the same, like you got to sometimes drop that down or it's going to burn the outside and the inside's going to be all mushy.
Yeah.
Like some concepts that don't make sense, like 600 degrees times 2 minutes equals 300 degrees times 4 minutes.
Not exactly.
It's like not exactly how it works. So you get that concept, you learn about the smoke points of the oils and when you're going to get stuff that tastes bad that way. You learn how to use salt and some of the spices, and then it's like just a few basic things.
It really is.
And then you can really start going. And then as far as like the ingredient side of things too is, with this kind of consciousness that's developed, it's really easy to get a lot of really good substitutive nutrients that, get your grass-fed beef, get your grass-fed butter, get things that are really going to be good for you.
Right.
That can look very much like a traditional, thing that you would get in fast food. Like if you want a cheeseburger, cool. All right. So get a sprouted bun, get some raw unpasteurized cheese, or like a raw goat cheddar is what I was eating when I was down in Sedona, So that's going to have a lot more advantages on the digestive system. Get a grass-fed beef, get some uncured natural bacon, and all of a sudden you got a bacon cheeseburger. Yeah. That's fucking awesome.
So much better than anything you've ever had.
Exactly.
Else.
And it's still a cheeseburger.
Yeah.
So there's not that much that you have to cut out as long as you're willing to choose the ingredients that really make sense. And not that you should eat that every day necessarily, but the way that we like to look at it is there's nothing necessarily off limits unless it's a chemical or unless it's something like that. But you don't need that stuff. You can have something that not only tastes better, but it's going to help you perform better and feel better too.
Yeah, obviously I agree. You're preaching to the choir. But I think that for a lot of people, it's just, even though there are simple substitutions, and that's what I'm all about too with Paleo-Gasm, is taking your traditional comfort foods, the things that you grew up with, and turning them paleo. Paleo comfort foods and on the internet, like that's what people are all looking for. They want to find a way to continue to eat that food that tastes really delicious and not feel like crap. So, but there are, even just in everything you said, as much as it is simple, it's not necessarily easy for people because you do have to overcome some hurdles. You have to overcome, this is going to cost this, your grocery bill is going to be a little bit higher.
Yep.
Okay,
but
so
your medical bill will be a little bit lower.
Your medical, in the short term, you're going to spend a little more money.
Right.
In the long term, you're going to spend a whole hell of a lot less. In order to make up for those extra grocery costs, you can eat out a little bit less, and you're going to be spending a lot less money down the road. And so there is, though, and maybe instead of having 45 pairs of shoes, you only get. I know. I
like to rock my kicks. I got these multicolored Adidas's on right now.
But there are, and that's something that I do with people a lot in my private coaching, just at the base level. You say that you don't have the money for this, but what are you spending your money on? And having people just get clear, is the way that I'm spending my money a reflection of what I actually care about? And if it's not, then you have to look and see, okay, well, why is it important for me to eat healthy? Now, a lot of people come to eat paleo because they're already really sick. Maybe they've been to a lot of doctors, and they just don't know what to do, and so they're desperate. So for those people, it's a little bit easier. But for people who are in okay health, even if they're not experiencing optimal health, it's like, do I really care enough about my health to spend 5 hours more a week in the kitchen or a couple $100s more a month at the supermarket? That's something that needs to be created for most people who are just running on autopilot. But if you can get people to begin to make that connection with who cares about health just for health's sake? No, that's not actually true. But health for health's sake is cool. But having a healthy body is your vehicle for everything else that you really care about in life, whether it's your job and your creativity and making a difference in the world, or it's being a mom who is energetic and full of life and able to show up for their kids, or, you know, just having the peace of mind to be able to grow old with health. These are the things that people actually care about. And as you can make that real connection to, without your body and without your health and without your mental clarity, then you have none of that. All you have is like an early death. and even before that death, probably a lot of years of feeling sort of subpar. And these are the kinds of things that I don't think that enough people are really talking about in our health industry. It's like it's already assumed, or I guess maybe the people who are coming to, you know, to use On It products or coming to the show, maybe they've come to that by themselves. But if you're thinking of wanting to eat healthier, but without having those major health problems, it can be really challenging for people to make that switch without going through this process.
Yeah, without feeling what it actually feels like to do it. And there's other, you know, there's counter forces that are all around.
Oh my God, yeah.
First, the body has addictive processes that want to continue. You know, sugar addictions and things that, you know, will drive you to these chemicals or sugars or whatever it is that's your, you know, that's your vice in that regard. And you won't even really realize, but they operate by influencing the mind. That's how addictions work. It's not like, you know, your body is going to start shaking, you know. It'll just trick your mind with this little kind of wormy thought that's like, yeah, this time will be okay. Like, this isn't going to be a problem. And then you just continue to do that over and over again, not really realizing that you're not exercising free will. Like, these candida organisms are influencing through the
I'm choosing
channel.
this 6-pack of soda and this entire package of cookies right now.
Right. Yeah,
you're being hijacked.
Exactly. And I think that's something that also people don't understand, because if you look at, like, you know, what are you really doing this for? Is this the mouth pleasure? Is this because it tickles your mouth buds in a certain way, and that's why you're, you know, drinking this, you know, soda or whatever it is? It's like, well, no, not really. Like, there's something deeper going on there. And until you take a break and shut off those voices and stop, you know, which is one reason why I think fasting or cleansing is so valuable, because it gives you like a moment to pause and reflect and go, okay, now what do I want to do? Not what am I compelled to do? And I think that's a really important space to get to, is just creating enough space that you can actually exercise your free will.
Yeah, I'm really happy that you brought all of that up. Actually, this week's episode of Camille's Paleo Kitchen is with JJ Virgin, and she is, you know, New York Times bestseller, but she is the world's biggest champion of getting sugar out of your diet. And a lot of what we talked about on the show is the mechanisms that keep you on that hamster wheel of just feeling locked into these sugar addictions. But if you can get the sugar out of your diet for less than 2 weeks, your cravings will go away. Most people have not ever gone 2 weeks without sugar, so they wouldn't even begin to know. But it really is so important. And beyond that, like you said, again, that's a lot of, I don't really get to have these conversations so much in like a 30-minute cooking show, but that's the deeper work. Right. If you want to really feel good in your body and have a really nice and healthy relationship with food, is to understand that, you know, for most of us, myself included, I grew up in a home that was really dysfunctional, and my parents were always fighting, and we didn't have a lot of money, but food was always the thing that I could turn to. And I don't know if it's so much, I know for some men have stronger emotional dependencies on food. I work more with women, but that emotional dependency on foods is really deep for a lot of people. So for me, it was, I can't handle what's going on in my life over here, and I need to self-soothe, and that was the addiction, was to bread and carbs and And that was what I knew. And when whatever the thing was that was happening in my brain that carbs was giving me was that moment of, oh, everything is going to be okay. And that is that emotional addiction to emotional and physiological addictions to those foods that are making you sick is such a big problem in our culture that most people, they just don't, like you said, they just don't have any idea. You think that you're coming at this neutral place, so I just like what I like, but you have the emotional dependency, and then you have fast food crap on every corner, and you have all of the things you see in the media, and food is, well, not that I have a problem with necessarily with the food and sex connection, but you have the Jack in the Crack ads with the ladies with these huge boobs like washing cars in bikinis, and there's all of these associations to this food that makes me feel terrible is really sexy, and it's on every corner, and all of these things that I've been seeing in front of me for the last 30, 40 years of my life have been telling me to go get this thing on one hand, and it can be hard for people to pull apart if you're not bringing the awareness of these topics. So it is really important.
I think, one of the things about eating is when you are on a fast, I think one of the things you miss, you get over the hunger pretty quickly, but one of the things you miss is the ritual of eating, and you forget how important that is in our life. And I think you can kind of lean on that because it's like a moment of presence that you allow yourself, like sex or something like that. And that's why these people get addicted.
Well, unless you're sitting in front of the television mindlessly eating.
I guess, but it still is some activity that kind of brings you into
grounds
the moment. It grounds you to a certain, even if you're eating bad food. Like the process of eating, you're chewing something, even if you're kind of mindlessly doing it, which obviously isn't the best, but it's still, that means that you're just a little bit less mindless than you already were. It's like, but whatever it is, it like grounds you with a sensation that's strong enough that'll draw you into like almost a flow state, like someone like Stephen Kotler would talk about, like a period where you're in the present moment. And that's one of the most pleasurable states to be in, when you can just let things go for a minute like that. And the key is to, you can have all that, but just do that with, good food as well. But, by taking that moment to fast or cleanse, then you get to separate from that and look at that with a proper lens and say, so like I miss this and I miss this ritual, and I'm going to appreciate this even more. Like I'm going to go into it. I know one of my favorite books is a book called Island by Aldous Huxley. And he describes the way that he recommends saying grace, or they did in the Island. And the way they did that was they had their plate of food and they picked out the very perfect bite. They got their utensil and they got whatever that combination was going to be. That was going to be the best bite on that plate. And they took their time to cultivate that. And then when they put it in their mouth and chewed it, they focused every bit of their intent on all of the flavors that were coming in and appreciated that and chewed it until it was nothing. And that was their way of showing gratitude for the food, was showing gratitude to that full experience, locking into the present moment. And then eating is going to be one of the most enjoyable things that you can do.
Totally.
But the converse, and I've caught myself doing this all the time, it's like you get into full animal mode. It's like you're in wolf mode. It's just like, food.
I haven't eaten
hungry.
in 16 hours. I'll eat my arm if I have to.
Yeah, it's food. I'm stressed and and then it's all like, whoa, settle down, animal. Like the food's going to stay there.
Yeah, I did that. We went out to the Salt Lick last night.
Oh, there it is. It's the easy place to get in animal mode.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I was with my boyfriend Craig and my best friend Katie. And I was just, I had like 4 kinds of meat on my plate. And it was all so good. And they're just doing their thing. And I was just like, they're just looking at me like, oh my God.
Yeah, like, oh, well,
you've unleashed the beast. But, okay, well, I have a couple things to say to that. One, for all of my friends who tease me about all of my perfect bites that I like to make, because that's like one thing when I cook for people, I usually like to make them a couple bites. Like, okay, you have to eat this like this. So you just remember that, because that's cool. But I love that conversation about the ritual of food and eating together and taking the time out of your day to sit around a table, to turn off everything you're doing, to be present with one another, to enjoy each other's company in front of a plate of delicious and also nourishing food. That right there, if most Americans could just make that one shift, like to actually to prioritize those moments would change everything. I mean, there's actually a lot of studies about that, and even showing the correlation when families stopped eating together, what happens to kids with their grades in school, and it has a lot to do.
Teen Mom 2.
Teen Mom 2. I didn't see that.
I don't know. I didn't see it either, but I know it exists.
Yeah. But
I'm not saying that that's what happens if you stop eating dinner. I was making a joke. It's just a joke, everybody. So
but just that simple act of getting back around the table and eating together as a family, a meal that you made together from good ingredients and enjoying each other's company, that I think that if families made it a priority to do that at least 4 or 5 times a week, that would change the dynamic of their entire family.
Mm-hmm.
They're not only their physical health, but their emotional health and well-being and the whole family dynamic.
So for the people who are listening who are, kind of in my demographic, and I think one of the things that's awesome about food is, yes, it's this creative process, it's fun, but if you really want to give something to either your friends or a girlfriend, or if you're a girl, you want to give something to your boyfriend, being able to prepare like a badass meal is one of the coolest things.
Oh yeah, you will get laid so much more if you know how to make a good meal.
And it's not like you need to be a great chef. Like you just need to practice like a couple meals. Mm-hmm. So you got those in your back pocket. Yes. You got really for most of my life, I had like 3 that I could like rely on. It was like a steak dish, it was a pasta dish, and it was like a stir fry, and I had those 3 that I knew that I could go to at any given moment. And it was easy. Yeah. I could do it without stress, without, I could be cracking jokes and opening wine. Like I had those meals down. Yeah. And just having a couple of those, because you're not going to maybe cook all the time, but just having a couple meals that even if you have, 5 meals that you do and you just have those once a month, mm-hmm. then you're at least a part of the way there. You got some of the skills to learn more meals, and you're also eating some of your own healthy food.
Yeah, that's what I do. That's what I focused. I have an online self-study program called Paleo Cooking at Home. And I just went through and I broke down in short videos, like 3 or 4 minute videos, all of those foundational skills. And you come to learn that there's really not that many, that what seems to be really overwhelming and complicated for people when they want to embark on cooking, especially when you're doing something like paleo or wanting to eat simple. It's learn how to cook a piece of fish without slaughtering it. Mm-hmm. Learn how to put a nice sear on a piece of meat. Learn how to season your meat. Learn how to cut vegetables. Not even because I just love food processors for people. Right. And learn how to roast veggies and then stir fry. Mm-hmm. And then there's a couple delicious sauces like a homemade aioli, and then you get a couple different spice blends. And I am telling you, with those 4 or 5 videos or skills like you're talking about, you can cook delicious food forever.
That's what's up.
That's going to make you feel really good, and it's really, really not that hard. Mm-hmm. But it's just a matter of being willing, just like with anything, being willing to put yourself in it and give it a try, and be willing to mess up a couple times and not have it be that great. Nobody's born a great cook. I wasn't born a great cook. I just got started when I was 4 years old, Right. So I've had a lot more time, but it really can be easy. And I think I really believe you want to talk about like what are the things that are the greatest return on your investment for your time in your life. It's learning how to do these simple things for yourself at home. You're going to save money over time. A lot of the stuff, we go out to eat. We're in Austin right now. There's amazing restaurants here. But the thing is, when you go out to eat all the time, even when you are trying to go to healthier places, the kinds of oils they use in restaurants are they're not that great. And the inflammatory effects of those oils is not great. And so just being able to cook with coconut oil or ghee or bacon fat or good quality oils at home, being able to know the quality, you can get a much higher quality of meat that you buy for yourself. Sure. Is going to be it's going to be so much healthier than eating out, and it's just worth it. It's something that it can be hard to impress on people unless they're really sick, and because I know people are busy, but it doesn't have to be hard. It doesn't have to be too expensive. You don't need to overcomplicate it. And in just a couple weeks, you're going to get the confidence. You're going to start feeling good. You may want to start experimenting with different kinds of flavors. You can start to impress your friends, your girlfriends, and just come around the table and be together, enjoying one another's company.
Right.
And that's what we really want in life.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not always the thing that we're focusing on, but just the last thing, we were talking about the blue zones, me and my boyfriend yesterday, and you know what the blue zones are, right?
Yeah, people with longevity
yeah,
and health in general.
Yeah, so they looked at the people around the world who, what was the common denominator for these people who were living to over 100? And all of them just lived a different quality of life. They were doing functional movement throughout the day. They were engaged in community. And they cook for themselves. So, like, what they cooked was, they all had very different diets, but I think that's the thing that we really, in our culture of do everything faster, be more productive, try to fit more in the day, if what we're really out for is quality of life and an extended quality of life, then cooking for yourself at home, being back around community, and slowing down, which cooking for me also really helps me to slow down when I'm like the rest of the day. It's God, I'm just getting, as I'm talking about this, I'm just like
getting
so
more fired up.
I'm just like really excited. I just want to go home and cook something.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
I think I think the other thing that I think is worth mentioning, that a lot of people who have started on this path and they get really rigid, I think they forget how important the mind is in all of these situations. The mind can really determine a lot. There's obviously food quality there, but there's also the mental quality of what you think. And if you're going out to eat and you're just out to eat, but the whole time you're thinking about how bad this is going to be, wondering if this is this GMO or that, and you're just so stressed about it, the effect of that food on you is going to be amplified to an exponential degree over the actual harm that the food is going to do.
I couldn't agree more.
And so when you're out there and you're in one of those situations and it's just one of those screw it moments
then
where
just do it and don't feel bad about it.
And just think
enjoy
and
it.
just imagine in your head, like, this is all good. This is all love coming in. No worries. We'll get back on the other way another time. But don't beat yourself up about it. And don't demonize it to the point like you're taking in bad humors or bad spirits like the old days when they used to put leeches on you or something. People get this like crazy phobia that, these things that they've probably eaten most of their childhood life, all of a sudden now that they know about it, are going to tear their insides out from, like an alien, a corn GMO alien is going to pop out of their stomach. And,
I know.
but it's not going to happen. They're going to survive. You'll be okay.
I know. I'm so happy. Oh, you're bringing up such good points. I noticed that for myself about 5 years ago when I saw that the religion, just having been a part of like a religious background some in the past, and just seeing the ways that people, this is not our conversation obviously, but the ways that people tear each other apart about religion, about I'm right, no, I'm right, even though everybody really sort of, people usually have the same intention, the same thing they're going for. I realized I was looking at this battle online between the paleos and the vegans, and just this nasty argument about this stuff. And I was like, wow, there's so much diet dogma and so much I need to be right, or this is the right way, and how much I was guilty of it too. I think most of us have been, who are on this health path, of just being enslaved by the religion of food dogma. And then that coming back down to what you're saying was that I would have anxiety attacks if I didn't know where I was going to be able to get something like up to my par of health. Sure. Like serious anxiety, and I see that that's actually a lot.
And what's that going to do to your digestion?
No,
exactly. It's like
last year at Paleo FX, I was really happy that there was a lot of conversation about that around about ending the diet dogma. And that has been it's just an interesting balance. It's been a major shift in my life to be able to, like, again, be in Austin and go out to eat and not have to be like, oh, I can only go somewhere that's completely organic, or, oh my gosh, I'm eating a tortilla, or, oh, heaven forbid, I'm going to go eat a donut right now because we are going to eat these donuts at this place, Gordo's or something.
Yeah.
I probably won't do it till after the conference, but it's like, and not be freaking weirdo about it. I'm just gonna go and eat a donut. And I'm
You
not
have to
gonna
be
eat
careful saying Gordo's around a Mountain
I
Mix
still
company
haven't
out
been
here.
there.
You
I
know,
just looked at the
people,
pictures.
everybody just stopped working, and just all that happened was just donuts just started floating in their head.
Sorry, guys.
All around the crowd.
Oh no, and I'm still out to perfect the paleo donut. I have not done it yet,
Well,
but
you'll have to
that's
let
going to
us
be
know.
happening. My next cookbook, I think, is going to be called Multiple Paleo-Gasms, and there's definitely going to be like a whole tribute
Yes.
to donuts. But
Yes.
but anyway, the point of all of that is that I totally agree. And I really think, the stress that some people, once they've gotten on it and are really into this diet, they're like, I'm doing paleo or I'm being a vegan and this is what I do all the time. And I'm going to like bend my whole life over backwards so I can only eat these perfect foods all the time. It's like, my God, that is just way too much energy towards your food.
Agreed. Bring the love back.
Yeah, and you don't have to be so serious and significant about it all the time. If you want to go to Gordo's and eat, as long as you don't have celiac disease, and eat a donut. I mean, food is meant to be enjoyed, but also having that balance and not going crazy.
Moderation in all things, including moderation. That's the motto.
Moderation in all things, including. That's an interesting. I'm going to chew on that for a while.
Yeah.
I like that.
Sure.
Yeah.
No pun intended. Where can people find you to follow you more?
Paleo-Kitchen.tv. Paleo Kitchen. You know how to spell kitchen, guys. KITCHEN.tv. We have new episodes airing every Tuesday night, and then we share about it all the rest of the week. We have some really fun guests we had Mark Sisson on at the beginning of this season, JJ Virgin this week. Next week we have George Bryant, who has this like huge cult paleo following. We have Tony Federico on later. Other people I can't think of, but yeah, it's super fun. I hope to be expanding out beyond the paleo community in future seasons. I'm having a baby in a couple months, but we're already planning for season 2 and beyond, and just bringing on fun new people and making some paleo donuts. That's definitely
Paleo donuts. Make it happen. The world needs that.
Yeah.
It's your gift. It's your gift to humanity.
Yes, it is. It would. I mean, it's really my duty. If you
It
have
is.
a cookbook like Paleo-Gasm, you can't not fully represent the donut.
Indeed.
So so I would love to have y'all come in. I'm definitely in Texas now.
Jump on board.
Y'all come check out PaleoKitchen.tv. We have a lot of fun. We'd love to see you there.
No, that was too much.
Come on. Didn't you say Dolly Parton was the last person that sat here?
Yes, actually. In Orlando's crazy fantasies as a child.
Where did that come from?
I don't know. Nothing about having fantasies about Dolly Parton, Lando. You know, just own it, man. You like pizzas? You like pizzas and Dolly Parton. What's wrong with that?
Wait, does he really like Dolly Parton?
I
totally would have believed that.
I mean, what's wrong with Dolly Parton? I'm going to call Dolly Parton up. I don't have her number, but I'm going to call her up.
Outside her face.
Oh, man, it's
Dolly.
throwing out a gauntlet.
Get in touch.
Dolly, wherever you're at, if you're listening, holla at Orlando.
Come on in.
Or find him on Tinder.
I'm not on Tinder. I'm too old.
Is there a time limit or is there an age limit for Tinder?
If you're over 30 now, they charge you money.
Oh.
You gotta pay the Tinder tax.
Oh.
He's got it on auto deduct though, so it's no big deal. He doesn't even notice it.
Wow, how did this great show go downhill so fast?
I don't know.
Thank you, Camille.
Thanks for
This
having
was
me.
awesome.
It's fun.
Thank you, people. Much love. Enjoy your food. Mwah!